The observation deck of the Galactic Concord Survival Oversight Committee was abuzz with whispers, many laced with amusement, others with pity. Holographic displays projected the image of a barren, desolate planet. Letter 7, a world synonymous with failure. It had broken the wills of thousands, crushed civilization's best and brightest, and devoured entire generations of survivalists. The challenge was simple in theory. Endure. Participants had to outlast the world's relentless hostility for a full century before extraction. No species had ever completed it in less than 80 years. And now, for humans stood at the deployment bay, prepared to enter what was widely considered a death sentence. "Are they malfunctioning?" whispered a four-eyed Drevian, his segmented limbs twitching. "Surely this is some mistake. Where's their colony ship?" "No ship," a Zelvari observer murmured. "No long-term supplies, no infrastructure. Just the four of them. Insanity." "Ah!" chortled a scaled Vorthax general, his serrated teeth clicking in amusement. "This will be over before my meal digests." The humans. Captain Alex Mercer surveyed the planet from orbit, his expression impassive. His military instincts painted a mental map of the terrain. Craggy wastelands, towering obsidian cliffs, and jagged storm clouds bristling with violet lightning. It was a hellscape. Good. He thrived in hellscapes. "Everyone ready?" he asked, voice steady. Dr. Lin May, crouched beside a case of gear, glanced up. "Excited even," she said, tucking a compact toolkit into her belt. "I've already theorized how to synthesize potable water from atmospheric condensation. Should only take a few hours." Jake Carter let out a low whistle, adjusting the strap on his modified exosuit. "Few hours? May, that's practically cheating." "Survival isn't about suffering," she shot back. "It's about problem-solving." Samira Diaz, the group's optimist, adjusted her visor. "And about seeing the bigger picture," she added. "I don't just want to survive. I want to thrive. Imagine the possibilities here. Maybe we can turn this place into something livable." Jake snorted. "Daydreaming already? We haven't even hit dirt yet." "Somebody has to," Sam replied with a grin. Mercer, cut in. Enough chatter. Stick to the plan. Adapt. Overcome. Make these smug aliens regret underestimating us. The countdown began. 5 seconds. 4, 3, with a violent shudder. The drop pod disengaged from the orbiting station, hurtling toward the planet's surface. Welcome to hell. The impact was brutal. The pod slammed into the ground, splitting through layers of brittle rock before settling in a shallow crater. The hatch hissed open, releasing steam into the arid air. Mercer stepped out first, scanning the horizon. The temperature was already climbing past 50 degrees Celsius, and the wind carried the scent of sulfur and decay. "All right, we move fast," he ordered. "First priority is water and shelter. May, you're on hydration. Carter, security. Sam, scouting and resources. I'll coordinate." May was already analyzing soil samples. "There's moisture beneath the surface, deep enough to be filtered. Might be geothermal pockets underground." Jake was less scientific about his approach. "I say we hunt whatever's big and scary first," he said, cracking his knuckles. "Make sure nothing eats us while we're working." Sam was staring at the distant cliffs. "There's something reflective up there," she mused. "Could be mineral deposits. Maybe tech remnants from previous challengers." Mercer nodded. "Fine. May, set up filtration. Sam, check out the cliffs." "Carter." A guttural roar interrupted him. From the rocks emerged a towering predator, all muscle and plated hide, its 6 black eyes locking onto the intruders. The alien observers leaned forward in anticipation. The first blood always came quickly. Jake grinned. "Oh, finally. Not a fight. A message." Before Mercer could issue an order, Jake charged, drawing a combat knife. The alien beast lunged, expecting an easy kill, only to find itself yanked forward as Jake sidestepped, gripping its armored throat and using its own momentum to slam it into the ground. There was a moment of silence. The watching aliens were stunned. Jake, still straddling the dazed creature, looked back at his team. "So, are we keeping this thing? Might make a decent mount." May sighed. You're insufferable. Mercer turned to monitors, knowing full well the aliens were watching. He made a point of stepping onto the creature's back like a podium, crossing his arms. One problem solved, he said flatly. What's next? The silence from the Galactic Concord was deafening. The control room of the Galactic Concord Survival Oversight Committee was in chaos. The holographic displays flickered as analysts scrambled to make sense of what had just transpired. A Drevian strategist, his mandibles twitching erratically, turned to his superior. The human subdued the apex predator within seconds. That isn't possible. The Zelvari overseer's frilled tendrils curled in agitation. Nothing about these creatures is reasonable. We engineered that beast to terrorize survivors for decades. On the surface of Letis 7, humanity had already moved on, outthinking the elements. Jake Carter gave his new pet a final pat before pushing himself to his feet. All right, big guy, you live today. I'll name you later. May, crouched beside the rock formations, ignored him as she adjusted her portable filtration unit. The air around her shimmered with heat, but she was focused. A thin tube protruded from the cracked ground, where she had driven a probe deep into the surface. There's water down there, she said, tapping at her tablet. Superheated, full of dissolved minerals, but definitely usable if we run it through a multi-stage filter. I can have drinkable water in 2 hours. Mercer nodded approvingly. Faster than I expected. Good work. A flicker of movement on his HUD caught his attention. Sam, scaling the cliffs with practiced efficiency. Her boots found purchase on the rock face, hands moving quickly. She had spotted something earlier, and Mercer trusted her instincts. The aliens, still observing from orbit, were struggling to keep up with the pace of human adaptability. What are they doing now? A Vorthax general asked. They're stabilizing their environment. They should be desperately searching for food, water, and shelter right now, not. They are, the general snapped, but they're doing it too quickly. A silence fell over the room. The challenge was designed to break its participants, to force them into a slow, grueling march of endurance. Yet these humans were not enduring. They were conquering, scavenging and reinventing. Sam reached the top of the cliff and let out a low whistle. Jackpot. A rusted-out hull lay half buried in the rock. A crash drone, likely left behind by a previous Challenger centuries ago. The metal was pockmarked and scorched, but Sam could already see possibilities. Hey, Mercer, she called over comms. I found an old drone wreck. Might be salvageable. Good. Strip it for parts and bring back anything useful, he replied. She didn't need to be told twice. Within minutes, she had extracted power cells, intact servos, and a relay system that could be repurposed for communications. She grinned. One species' failure was a human's toolkit. By the time she rappelled back down, May had successfully extracted water. Carter was busy turning rocks into improvised weapons, and Mercer was drawing a tactical map of their surroundings. The aliens watched in mounting disbelief as the humans skipped entire stages of struggle. This isn't endurance, one analyst muttered. They aren't suffering. They're optimizing. Another finished grimly. The first major threat. A sudden alert flared on the Concord security grid. Something was moving. Several somethings. The humans noticed it at the same time. Mercer's visor flashed red. We got company. Emerging from the dust were a group of Keth warriors, the automated enforcers of survival tests. They were biomechanical monstrosities, built to hunt survivors relentlessly, pushing them to their limits over decades. Decades that humanity refused to waste. The lead Keth unit's optics pulsed as it broadcast its warning. Organic life form detected. Engage. Jake cracked his knuckles. Oh, you picked the wrong organics. Turning the tables. The Keth warriors charged, weapons humming with lethal energy. Their programming dictated overwhelming force. Against any other species, they would be an existential nightmare. But humans had a saying, if you can't win, change the rules. May moved first, hurling a crude but effective flash charge, a hastily repurposed power cell from Sam's drone wreckage. It exploded with blinding light, causing the Keth's targeting systems to stutter. That was all the opening Carter needed. He vaulted forward with reckless confidence, using the environment itself as a weapon. He ducked under a wild energy blast, grabbed a loose rock the size of his head, and smashed it into the nearest Keth's exposed core. Sparks flew as the machine collapsed. Mercer moved next, laying down precise suppressive fire with a scavenged energy rifle, forcing the Keth into predictable cover points. Sam flanked them, hurling debris and repurposing drone parts as makeshift EMPs. It took 2 minutes to dismantle a threat that was meant to haunt survivors for a century. The control room erupted into chaos. This is absurd. They shouldn't even know how to fight Keth yet. Most species take years just to develop counter-strategies. The Zelvari overseer gripped his skull in frustration. They aren't surviving. They're winning. A message to the galaxy. With the Keth dispatched, Mercer stood over the remains of one and activated his comm. He knew the aliens were listening. He leaned down and pried a still-functioning camera from one of the destroyed units, holding it up to his face. "You call this a 100-year challenge?" His voice was level, but the barely concealed amusement was evident. He turned the camera toward Carter, who was now using a Keth limb as an impromptu club, and then to May, who was already reverse engineering their tech. Sam was grinning, tossing a salvage power core between her hands. Mercer gave the camera a final, unimpressed look. "We'll be done by tomorrow." The control room fell silent. Then chaos erupted. The Galactic Concord's control room had devolved into chaos. Frantic analysts scoured data logs, attempting to rationalize what they had just witnessed. The Deathworlders had torn through obstacles designed to last a century in mere hours. "This isn't possible," stammered a Zelvari technician, his bioluminescent frills flickering erratically. The Keth enforcers were programmed with evolving combat algorithms. No species has ever neutralized them so quickly. "Perhaps the humans are cheating," suggested a Vorthax official, his scaled fingers tapping against his datapad. "Cheating?" The Drevian commander laughed, though it was a chittering, nervous sound. "No, they're just better." Silence fell over the room. No one liked the implications of that. On the surface of Letis 7, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were dominating, hijacking the game. Sam perched on a jagged rock formation, peering through the scope of a repurposed Keth optical lens. The wasteland stretched before her, a maze of cliffs and dry riverbeds. But what interested her wasn't the terrain. It was the sky. "Hey, guys," she called over comms. "We have a problem." "Define problem," Mercer responded, already dreading the answer. Sam adjusted the scope, frowning. The Keth weren't the final challenge. We got inbound heat signatures. Big ones. Looks like automated aerial drones. Lots of them. May, kneeling beside a half-dissected Keth warrior, sighed. "Of course. When the small robots fail, throw bigger ones at the problem. Real original." Jake Carter cracked his knuckles, grinning. "I like this approach. The bigger they are, the more unnecessary collateral damage they cause," Mercer interrupted, cutting off the impending joke. "We're not just fighting now. We're making a point." He turned to May. "Can you override their systems?" May gave him a deadpan look. "You're asking if I can hack ancient, outdated war machines running on a centuries-old security framework." She smirked. "Obviously." "Good. Because we're about to change the rules." The Deathworlders' counteroffensive. The sky darkened as the drones descended. A dozen, no more, rushed toward the human encampment, their sleek frames gleaming under the sun. Energy weapons glowed hot, ready to reduce the intruders to smoldering debris. May worked fast, fingers flying across her datapad. "Need another 60 seconds. "We don't have 60 seconds, Mercer warned. "Then stall them," she shot back. Jake grinned. "With pleasure." He darted forward as the first drone fired. Instead of dodging, he leapt straight at it. The observing aliens gasped. Humans weren't supposed to be that fast. Jake latched onto the drone's hull, twisting in midair to rip off a panel of exposed wiring. Sparks exploded. The drone's targeting systems flickered, then died. Boom! Jake muttered as the drone crashed into the ground. The other drones adjusted their approach, switching to evasive maneuvers. But it was already too late. May's terminal beeped. Gotcha. A pulse of electromagnetic energy surged through the air, emitted from the Hack-Keth relay. The drone shuddered, then halted entirely, frozen in midair. May exhaled. And just like that, they're ours. Mercer watched the drones hover in silence, their once lethal weapons now harmless. He turned his gaze toward the sky, knowing the alien spectators were watching. That was your last move, he murmured. Now it's our turn. A message to the Galactic Concord. Inside the control room, every screen went dark. Panic spread to the Galactic Concord as the holographic displays flickered back on. But now, they no longer showed system diagnostics. They showed Mercer. The human commander stared directly into the cameras, flanked by his team. Behind them, the once hostile Keth unit stood motionless, their systems commandeered. Above, the Concord's own war drones hovered at the human's command. To the Galactic Concord, Mercer said, voice steady, we appreciate the challenge. He took a step closer, as if addressing them personally. But this test? This 100-year survival course? He tilted his head, smirking. It's broken. Jake rested an elbow on a disabled Keth's metallic shoulder. Fun while it lasted, though. May adjusted her glasses. Maybe next time, try making it hard. Sam gestured toward the hacked drone still floating in the air. Oh, and in case you're wondering, yes, we're keeping these. The Galactic Concord sat in stunned silence. The test wasn't over, but humanity had already won. The Galactic Concord had no contingency plan for this. In the control room, dozens of high-ranking officials watched the screens in stunned silence. What had been designed as an unbeatable survival course, a crucible to test endurance over centuries, had instead become a stage for humanity's raw ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless drive to win. They have hijacked our drones, a Vorthax general muttered, his claws flexing in agitation. They have repurposed our enforcers, a Zelvari overseer added, her frilled tendrils curling in disbelief. They have rejected the entire premise of the test, the Drevian strategist concluded, his mandibles clicking rapidly. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Concord was faced with an opponent that did not merely survive. They conquered, turning the tables. On the surface of Letter 7, Mercer and his team stood before the still hovering fleet of repurposed drones. What had once been an overwhelming force sent to eliminate them now awaited orders. Mercer turned to May. Can you give us a full system diagnostic? May's fingers flew across her tablet. Already ahead of you, the drones are in perfect working condition. Advanced weaponry, high-speed maneuverability, and some impressive auto-repair systems. Whoever built these wasn't messing around. Jake Carter gave a low whistle. So, we just scored ourselves an entire fleet? Sam smirked. Not just a fleet, a statement. She turned her gaze skyward, knowing full well that someone was watching. Let's see how they react when we decide to push back. A reckoning from orbit. The Galactic Concord's control room erupted in alarm as the stolen war drones suddenly came to life. They're moving, an analyst yelped. Impossible. They shouldn't be able to control them at that level. Yet, on the screens, there was no mistaken precision. The drones ascended. Not erratically, not like stolen technology in the hands of desperate survivors. No, they move with purpose. In formation, like a fleet. The Zelvari overseer's frills flattened. They're not just breaking our tests. They're reversing it, the Drevian strategist whispered. And then Mercer's voice came through their emergency channels, broadcast on a frequency no one should have been able to access. This is Commander Mercer of the Human Expeditionary Force, he said, voice calm and measured. Your survival test is over. The room went deathly silent. Not because we failed, he continued, but because we won. His team appeared behind him, May running tactical scans, Sam overseeing drone coordination, Carter casually twirling a piece of scavenged Keth, plating like a trophy. Your test was supposed to last 100 years. We finished it in 1 day. Mercer leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. So I have to ask, what exactly does that say about you? The accusation hung in the air like a blade, redefining the rules. The Galactic Concord had always prided itself on its advanced civilizations, its carefully curated hierarchy of strength and resilience. The survival test had been their way of measuring the worth of new species. But what happens when a species exceeds every possible expectation? Panic rippled through the ranks. Some suggested immediate military intervention, but the idea was quickly dismissed. The uncomfortable truth was undeniable. If humans could dismantle their hardest tests within a single day, what would happen if the Galactic Concord ever became their enemy? The silence in the control room was deafening. Then, finally, the Zelvari overseer exhaled. What do they want? The final terms. Back on Letters 7, Mercer turned away from the camera feed, looking at his team. Think they're listening? Carter asked, grinning. Sam rolled her eyes. Oh, they're definitely listening. May adjusted her glasses. And calculating. Very, very quickly. Mercer smirked. Good. He turned back to the drone camera. We're taking your drones, he said simply, and your Keth war machines. A flurry of alarm chatter erupted across the Concord channels. Mercer continued unfazed. We're also renaming this planet, he added. Letters 7? Too sterile. We're thinking something more appropriate. He looked at Carter. Carter grinned. Boot camp. Mercer chuckled. Fitting. His expression turned serious again. Consider this our official declaration. Humanity doesn't need your tests. He paused, then gave the camera a final, knowing look, because we make our own. The screen cut to black. Epilogue, a new fear. The aftermath was felt across the galaxy. The test had been designed to define humanity's limits. Instead, it had revealed that they had none. Within hours, the Galactic Concord began issuing emergency discussions. Some factions pushed for diplomacy, eager to bring humanity into their fold. Others whispered of preemptive containment efforts, terrified of what the species could become. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had just learned a new, terrifying lesson. Humanity didn't just survive. They changed the game. And they weren't playing by anyone else's rules anymore.